creature we know as Bigfoot haunts the minds of almost every human culture and corner of the world. Although called by different names, the descriptions of the beast remain eerily similar. In the United States alone, there are over a dozen regional varieties. While the tales of the creature have been told through oral traditions of the native peoples and their reports to others, for many the first exposure and tangible evidence that there is something out there lurking in the woods came in the form of the Patterson-Gimlin film shot in 1967. While for many, this piece of footage is considered all they need, there are those in the Bigfoot community that doubt its veracity. What if a new theory about this elusive creature has the answer to the lack of physical remains? What if the natives were tangentially close to the true answer? What if the Bigfoot is not of our earthly plane? What if Bigfoot is actually an interdimensional being? This is what we seek to explore as I welcome you to the Bigfoot dimension.
Long before the strangers came, our people spoke of a great walker in the deep woods. We called him by many names. Some say Saskets, some say he who watches from the trees. He is not beast, and he is not man. He is a shadow between worlds, a spirit that wears the shape of the old ones. When the forest is still and the mist drifts low, That is when his spirit moves. You may feel him before you see him, the weight of silence, the breath of the earth. He guards the places untouched by man's hunger, where the rivers still sing their true names. Our elders told us he walks to remind us that we are not alone in this world of stone and steel, that the earth remembers, that the spirits still watch and wait and whisper. If you see his sign in the mud or hear his call echo through the pines, do not chase him, do not fear him. Offer a thought, a prayer, a breath of respect, for he walks in both worlds and sees us, even when we no longer see him.
Let us examine what we think we know of our subject from the decades or centuries of previous eyewitnesses' accounts. Standing between 7 and 10 feet tall, Bigfoot is a towering figure, a fusion of power and primal mystery. Its body is massive and heavily muscled, built like something that evolved for endurance and silence in the deep wilderness. Its shoulders are impossibly broad, often over 4 feet across, tapering into long, thick arms that hang nearly to its knees. Its skin, where visible, is leathery gray or dark brown, sometimes described as weathered, almost stone-like. The body is covered in dense hair, not soft fur, but coarse, matted strands that range in color from black to a deep auburn brown. Some have even described silver specimens, most likely older individuals. In some accounts, the hair appears oily or clumped, giving off a musky, earthy odor, a mix of wet soil, animal musk, and decay that lingers long after it's gone. The head sits low on the shoulders, often with little visible neck, creating a silhouette that seems both human and ape-like, yet distinctly neither. The brow is pronounced, the forehead sloping, shadowing eyes that are said to glow amber or red when caught in the light. Witnesses describe the eyes as intelligent, wary, almost sorrowful, the eyes of something that knows it's been seen. The face itself is a haunting blend of human and animal. Flat nose, wide nostrils, a strong jawline covered in short hair, lips that can curl back in a silent snarl. The mouth is wide, and some witnesses have claimed to hear deep, guttural vocalizations, howls, knocks, or rumbling growls that seem to vibrate through the air itself. The legs are thick and powerful, ending in massive feet, anywhere from 16 to 24 inches long, leaving behind tracks with 5 distinct toes and a metatarsal break, more akin to a great ape than a human. Each step carries hundreds of pounds of weight, yet the creature moves uncannily gracefully, silent, deliberate, often vanishing into the forest without a sound. When seen, Bigfoot's presence feels overwhelming, not merely physical, but atmospheric. The woods fall silent, the air feels charged, heavy, as though reality itself is holding its breath. For many of the native peoples of the Americas, the creature is a spirit guide, an entity not truly of our earthly plane. For the cryptozoologists, the creature is an undiscovered, uncategorized hominid. However, modern science wants something more tangible. They want a body. Something that can be physically examined. While tracks have been discovered, and the occasional clumps of hair found, the lack of truly definitive physical evidence has eluded those who hunt the Bigfoot. But why? One would think
that in all the time since the natives of North America have told the European settlers to the modern day, something would have been found to placate modern science.
For decades, we've tried to explain Bigfoot through conventional biology, a lost primate, a relict hominid. Tracks vanish mid-trail, sightings end without a trace, cameras malfunction. It's as if we're chasing a ghost that refuses to be caught by our world's rules. That's why some of us have begun to ask a harder question. What if Bigfoot isn't from our side of reality at all? What if it moves between worlds, stepping in and out of dimensions like a shadow through light? Quantum physics tells us there may be layers of existence right beside ours, different vibrations of space and energy, unseen but real. If that's true, perhaps Bigfoot isn't hiding in the forest. It's hiding through it, passing into another frequency of being when threatened, appearing only when the veil between worlds thins. It could explain why the footprints end abruptly, why radar and thermal imaging often fail, why so many witnesses describe feelings of distortion, time slowing, sounds bending, air thick with static. Maybe Bigfoot isn't just a creature of nature, but a traveler, a guardian or a remnant of something ancient that remembers how to walk between realms. Until we understand that bridge between the physical and the metaphysical, we may never truly find it. But maybe that's the point. Maybe we're not meant to catch the mystery, only to recognize that it still walks beside us, just beyond the veil.
This concept is an interesting conundrum, but does it have any merit? While it would be a possible answer to one question, it opens the door to a whole host of more. Does Bigfoot have the physical ability to willingly manipulate the dimensional fabric of space-time to travel through dimensions? Or are these creatures simply slipping through random theoretical dimensional rifts? Are they only coming to our world, our dimension? Or do they travel others? The theory suggests that Bigfoot uses natural vortex points or dimensional rifts in forests and in the mountains to move between worlds. If one was to delve into the works of John Keel, Bigfoot would be, as he coined the term, an ultra-terrestrial, a being which exists in a wavelength of energy which we cannot detect. Is this how interdimensional travel would work? This concept moves Bigfoot out of the realm of the biological and into the realm of the paranormal, and has linked the creature to the interdimensional UFO theory.
For decades, the dominant theory in UFO research was extraterrestrial, craft visiting us from distant star systems, piloted by beings far ahead of our technology. But over time, the evidence began to challenge that idea. Sightings didn't behave like interstellar travelers. They behaved like something far stranger. Objects that appear out of nowhere and vanish in an instant. Lights that defy inertia, gravity, and even logic. Encounters that seem to manipulate perception itself, as if the phenomena are aware of who's watching. That's when a new idea began to emerge, the interdimensional hypothesis. It suggests that UFOs aren't crossing space, they're crossing realities. That these craft or intelligences are slipping through the thin folds between dimensions, entering our world for reasons we don't yet understand. If space and time are layers in a greater multidimensional structure, then these events might represent brief overlaps, a bleed-through of one level of existence into another. That would explain why radar sees them one moment and nothing the next, why witnesses describe distortion, a hum in the air, colors bending, silence that feels wrong. Some physicists even support the idea. Quantum theory tells us that matter can exist in multiple states at once, that reality isn't fixed, but fluid. So perhaps what we call UFOs are not objects at all, but manifestations, projections of consciousness or energy from another dimension entirely. It might also explain why the phenomena seem to follow people rather than locations, why they respond to thought, why they can take on forms, metallic, luminous, organic, as if shaped by our own expectations. If that's true, then we aren't being visited by others. We're sharing space, momentarily, with something that has always been here just beyond our perception, reaching through the cracks in reality itself.
There are several historic and recorded incidents where the presumed biological being, Bigfoot, and the paranormal have intersected. Pennsylvania, 1973. Fayette County, Westmoreland County, and the surrounding areas. Dozens of reports of Bigfoot sightings. Witnesses describe a 7 to 8 foot tall, hairy being with glowing red eyes. In one famous incident, farmers reported seeing Bigfoot-like creatures emerge from a glowing sphere of light. Tracks were often found, but would suddenly vanish in the middle of fields.
In 1973, something extraordinary and terrifying happened across southwestern Pennsylvania. Fayette County, Westmoreland County, and the wooded ridges surrounding them became ground zero for one of the most intense and baffling waves of Bigfoot sightings in American history. It began in the spring. Rural residents started reporting enormous, hair-covered creatures, 7, 8 feet tall, moving through the forests, crossing roads at night, leaving tracks the size of dinner plates. But this wasn't just 1 or 2 encounters. It was dozens, sometimes several in a single week. And what made 1973 different was that the sightings didn't occur in isolation. They were accompanied by something else. Strange lights in the sky. Balls of glowing red and white that hovered over pastures and tree lines. Witnesses described seeing a Bigfoot-like creature walking toward one of these lights, and then both simply vanished. Investigators at the time, including researcher Stan Gordon, documented case after case that defied explanation. There were footprints that stopped abruptly in soft mud, as if the creature had stepped off into thin air. Farm animals mutilated without a sound, and reports of humanoid eyes reflecting a fierce green or red glow in total darkness. For many, it felt like a haunting, like the entire region had become a stage for something beyond ordinary reality. Some researchers believe the Fayette-Westmoreland incidents represented a kind of portal event, a moment when our world and something else briefly overlapped. The overlap theory gained traction because witnesses described effects consistent with high electromagnetic fields, nausea, dizziness, temporary paralysis, even time loss. And then, by winter, it all stopped. No creature was ever captured, no definitive evidence found. Just stories, tracks, and memories that refused to fade. 50 years later, the 1973 Pennsylvania wave remains one of the most well-documented and deeply unsettling chapters in cryptozoological history, a time when the lines between UFOs, Bigfoot, and the paranormal blurred into a single impossible mystery.
Northern California's Mount Shasta, long considered sacred and mysterious. Reports of Bigfoot-type beings in the forests and caves around the mountain. Sightings of glowing orbs and strange lights in the same areas. Witnesses have claimed to see Bigfoot vanish into thin air or step into a shimmering field and disappear.
Mount Shasta, rising nearly 14,000 feet above Northern California, it's more than just a mountain. To many, it's a beacon, a place where the veil between worlds grows thin. For centuries, native tribes spoke of it as a sacred place, the dwelling of sky spirits, and the gateway to hidden realms beneath the earth. But as time went on, stranger stories began to surface. Early settlers reported glowing lights hovering over the slopes, mysterious figures in white robes, and travelers who vanished for days, returning with tales of underground cities made of crystal and radiant beings of light. Modern investigators call Mount Shasta a power node, a convergence of magnetic and energetic fields that seem to distort time, perception, even reality itself. We've recorded compass failures, strange vibrations, and light phenomena that can't be explained by weather or geology. And then there are the creatures. Sightings of large, shadowy bipeds, enormous, silent, intelligent. They appear and disappear in the fog, as if using the mountain's energy as a doorway. Some believe these entities, what we call Bigfoot, are drawn here for the same reason the lights appear, because Mount Shasta is a crossroads between dimensions. From UFOs to interdimensional portals, from ancient Lemurian legends to modern encounters, Mount Shasta stands as a living mystery, a place where myth and science, faith and fear collide. Whatever it is that stirs beneath that snow-capped peak, it watches us, and maybe, just maybe, it's waiting for us to notice that we're not the only ones climbing toward the light.
Ohio Grassman and Orange Orbs, 1970 to the present. The Grassman is a variety of Bigfoot native to the state of Ohio, primarily in Salt Fork State Park, Ohio, one of the most active Bigfoot regions outside the Pacific Northwest. Witnesses have long reported multiple encounters, including floating orange orbs of light appearing before, during, or after Bigfoot sightings.
Ohio might not be the first place people think of when they hear the word Bigfoot, but for nearly 50 years, this state has been one of the most active regions in the country for sightings. And the creature people here talk about isn't just Bigfoot. They call it the Grassman. Reports stretch back to the early 1970s. Huge, muscular figures covered in dark or reddish hair, seen near Minerva, Salt Fork, and the dense forests that border the Ohio River Valley. Some encounters were peaceful, the creature watching from the trees. Others were terrifying, with witnesses describing guttural growls, the stench of rot, and glowing eyes peering from the brush. But here's where it gets strange. In dozens of cases, the Grassman doesn't appear alone. Witnesses report orange orbs, glowing spheres of light, hovering in the same areas where the creature is seen. Sometimes before, sometimes after, sometimes both appear together, as if connected. The earliest documented cases from the 70s and 80s describe orbs that moved silently through the woods, changing size and brightness, even following cars or people. Farmers spoke of balls of fire drifting low over their fields. Then, moments later, they'd see the silhouette, massive, hunched, watching. Investigators began to notice a pattern. The orbs often coincided with electromagnetic anomalies, compasses spinning, radios cutting out, cameras failing. And when the lights disappeared, the Grassman seemed to vanish with them. Some researchers now believe the orbs aren't separate phenomena at all. but a manifestation of the same force. If Bigfoot is interdimensional, a being able to shift between frequencies of reality, then maybe the orange lights are the byproduct of that transition. Energy discharges, plasma effects, or glimpses of the dimensional rift itself. Whatever the explanation, the connection persists to this day. Modern reports still come in. Hikers at Salt Fork State Park, night fishermen along the Muskingum, campers near Mohican Forest, all describing the same thing: a glowing orb and something enormous moving just beyond the tree line. From the 1970s to now, the Grassman remains a mystery rooted in Ohio soil, but reaching for something far beyond it.
In rural Minnesota, hunters and hikers have reported seeing massive, hairy creatures that leave tracks that abruptly stop, even in snow. In some cases, people claimed the creature seemed to phase out, fading like a mirage.
Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes and just as many legends. Up here in the North Woods, Bigfoot isn't just a story told around a campfire. For decades, people from the Boundary Waters to the Iron Range have reported encounters with something enormous. Something that walks upright. Something that shouldn't be here, but is. Most sightings happen where civilization thins out, along old logging roads, deep in the Superior National Forest, or on the edges of swampy bogland where the mist clings low to the ground. People describe a creature 7-8 feet tall, covered in dark reddish-brown hair, moving through the trees with a speed and silence that defies its size. But what's fascinating is how consistent the reports are. Hunters speak of hearing knocks echoing through the timber, followed by a low, mournful howl that sends every instinct screaming. Fishermen tell of seeing enormous silhouettes on remote lake shores, just for a moment before they melt back into the shadows. And in winter, when the snow is deep and clean, there are tracks, long, wide, unmistakably bipedal, crossing frozen creeks and disappearing into forest no human could traverse without leaving signs of struggle. Some encounters are subtle. A sudden silence in the woods, a heavy presence watching from the tree line, the sense, almost physical, that you're not alone. Others are direct. One man near Bemidji reported a massive figure stepping onto a rural road under the glow of his headlights, its breath fogging in the cold night air. Another family camping near the Gunflint Trail heard deep, chest-rattling growls circling their tent long after midnight. Whether you call it Bigfoot, the hairy man, or simply the Minnesota wild thing, the pattern is always the same. It appears when it wants to, and vanishes long before anyone can get close. Whatever roams these forests moves with purpose, as if it knows the land better than we do, and maybe has known it far longer.
Our world operates on many an unseen force, those invisible to the naked eye. And while we have discovered a lot, mankind knows we do not quite fully understand everything yet. We would still like to think we have a good bead on where the science will lead and where it will take us. But then there are the curveballs that are thrown our way. Those who make us question or change everything we think we already know. Bigfoot puts us in this uncomfortable position.
Could it be that our world is more complex than we realize? Are there still things that we simply just don't realize are part of our reality because the vast majority of humanity does not experience them on a daily basis? In theoretical physics, multidimensional refers to the idea that the universe has more dimensions than just the 3D of space we move around in: up, down, left, right, forward, back, plus one more of time, the fourth dimension we normally experience. M-theory proposes extra dimensions, where the extra ones are curled up or hidden from our perception. These extra dimensions could, in theory, allow for parallel universes, shortcuts through space-time. The Level 3 multiverse is a landscape of diverse universes where every conceivable outcome has come to pass. The extinction of the dinosaurs in our dimension never happened in another. The left turn you made the other day in another dimension, you took the right. In another, you kept going straight. In a multiverse, all things are possible. This would take Bigfoot from missing link between man and beast to linking humanity to the greater cosmic realm.
For most of human history, we've understood reality as 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time. A simple linear framework where everything fits neatly into cause and effect. But modern physics tells us that picture is incomplete. When Einstein revealed that space and time are woven together into a single fabric, space-time, he opened the door to something extraordinary. The possibility that what we call reality is just one layer of a much larger structure. String theory, M-theory, and other advanced models suggest that our universe could contain 10 or 11 dimensions, most of them hidden, curled up at scales so small we can't perceive them. But some theorists believe those dimensions may not be microscopic at all. They could exist as parallel realities, vast and complex. Other versions of existence operating alongside ours, each with its own laws of physics, its own forms of life, its own sense of time. In that framework, what we perceive as the paranormal might not be supernatural. It might simply be natural phenomena from another layer of reality bleeding into ours. If 2 dimensions intersect, even for a moment, information, matter, even consciousness could slip between them. To us, that might look like a UFO appearing out of nowhere, a creature vanishing mid-step, a ripple in the air where something immense just passed through. The mathematics supports the idea, but it's the implications that truly challenge us. If higher dimensions exist, then we are not isolated beings in a single universe. We are part of an enormous interwoven continuum, one that connects everything, the physical, the energetic, the conscious, and the unknown. And perhaps what we call the unexplained isn't outside science at all. It's science we haven't yet learned to see.
It would appear that Bigfoot just isn't elusive. It sometimes acts as if it is literally not bound to physical space as we understand it, or the physics of our dimension. Common threads in these cases: glowing red or orange eyes, tracks that vanish suddenly, the creature itself disappearing or phasing out before an eyewitness's eyes, orbs of mysterious light in the same time frame and area, and hotspots that repeatedly produce overlapping reports and consistent reports of eerily similar events. Is this just coincidences, or is there something more?
In the West, in the state of Utah, in the Great Basin, lies a property that has become infamous for its sightings of multiple paranormal and supernatural happenings. This property, known as Skinwalker Ranch, has been subjected to multiple UFO, Bigfoot, and other visitations. The question is this a nexus point? A thin point in dimensional reality? What could explain all these happenings frequently and consistently happening in this unassuming area of what is considered by most sparse wasteland? Researchers have descended on the property on multiple occasions, recording strange happenings, strange sightings, ominous data, and more. But still, it remains inconclusive. But what is it about this seemingly unassuming 512-acre piece of property? For centuries, the Native Americans knew of its extraterrestrial connection. In the 90s, it became wider known to the general public and had already garnered the moniker of UFO Ranch. It was purchased in 1996 by those who seek to explain the strangeness. Since its subsequent sale in 2016, the access points to the ranch have been blocked, barricaded, and signed not to enter. But again, what is the link between all these happenings and our subject of the Bigfoot and its connection to all these happenings? Again, orange orbs or orbs of other light, different variants of this creature, different UFO interactions, and the Native American legends all converge in this one location that seemingly no one wants anyone to know about or discuss.
Tucked away in the Uinta Basin of northeastern Utah lies one of the strangest and most documented paranormal hotspots on Earth, Skinwalker Ranch. For decades, locals have reported impossible lights in the sky, craft that defy physics, animal mutilations, and entities that seem to appear and disappear at will. The ranch earned its name from old Navajo legends, stories of skinwalkers, shape-shifting beings that could move between the physical and the spiritual. But whatever is happening there, it goes far beyond folklore. When researchers began studying the property, they recorded radiation spikes, magnetic distortions, and even physical objects vanishing into thin air. Surveillance cameras caught spheres of light moving through solid matter. Time itself seemed to bend. Some investigators now believe that Skinwalker Ranch is not just a location, but a window, a weak spot in the fabric of reality where dimensions overlap, allowing things from somewhere else to bleed through. And that's where Bigfoot comes in. Reports of large, hairy bipedal figures near the ranch are surprisingly consistent, yet they behave unlike any ordinary creature. They appear without tracks, vanish mid-stride, and are often accompanied by electromagnetic interference. Eyewitnesses describe intense fear, nausea, or a sense of being watched, as if their very perception is being altered. If the ranch truly is a nexus point, a kind of cosmic crossroads, then Bigfoot might not be a creature of our Earth at all. It could be an interdimensional traveler moving through portals like the lights and entities observed there. Maybe what we call Bigfoot, Skinwalker, or UFO are not separate mysteries, but different faces of the same phenomenon. Different ripples on the same surface of reality, manifesting in whatever form we are capable of seeing.
Now back to the different regional varieties of Bigfoot from around the world. Are they all from one other dimension? Or are they each from their own distinct multiverse? Suggesting interdimensional travel may be tantalizingly easier than we expect. Does Bigfoot have a naturally evolved ability to open portals and travel the multiverse interdimensional highways? Or is it simply an unwilling participant of unknown natural dimensional fluxes?
Around the country, the creature we call Bigfoot wears many faces and many names. In the Pacific Northwest, it's the classic Sasquatch, tall, broad-shouldered, built for deep forests and endless rain. In Ohio and Pennsylvania, it's the Grassman, leaner, faster, often seen near farmland and river valleys. Down in Florida, witnesses describe the skunk ape, shorter, stockier, adapted to swamp and heat. Out west, in the high deserts, we hear of the Magalone monster. And in Minnesota and Canada's North Country, sightings describe heavier builds and thick, insulating hair, creatures shaped by cold and isolation. For years, researchers argued these differences meant multiple species, regional adaptations like wolves or bears. But that theory struggles to explain the strangest part of the phenomenon. These beings don't behave like animals. They appear suddenly, vanish without a trace, and often leave behind footprints that simply stop. They are frequently seen alongside glowing orbs, electromagnetic disturbances, and distortions of time and perception. That's led some of us to consider a more radical possibility, that Bigfoot isn't a biological species evolving region by region, but a single phenomenon manifesting differently depending on where and how it enters our reality. If Bigfoot is interdimensional, then what we're seeing are projections, forms shaped by environment, culture, and expectation. A being passing through the veil may not arrive fully physical, its shape unstable, adaptive, fluid. It becomes what the landscape allows it to be. That would explain why the creature seems both ancient and elusive, why it appears across continents without a clear fossil record, why it feels more like an intelligence than an animal. In this framework, Bigfoot isn't roaming from state to state, it's stepping in, using forests, mountains, and power sites as doorways between dimensions. Different regions, different names, different forms, but perhaps the same traveler.
Another take on this diversity of Bigfoot types is, instead of them conforming to our dimension as they enter it, and what we believe they are allowed to exist as here. An alternate take may be they simply evolved in this manner in their home dimensions, forming and filling in evolutionary niches, openings, and opportunities.
When we look at Bigfoot strictly through the lens of biology, we hit a wall. The reports are too global, the physical differences are too pronounced, and the behavior too inconsistent. Across the world, we encounter creatures that resemble one another, upright, powerfully built, covered in hair, yet differ in ways that can't be explained by environment alone. The Yeti of the Himalayas, massive and pale, built for altitude and cold. The Yowie of Australia, taller, leaner, often described with a more human-like face. The Almas of Central Asia, smaller, faster, sometimes interacting directly with people. The Orang Pendek of Sumatra, short, muscular, and eerily intelligent. Instead of asking whether these are variations of one species, we might need to ask a more radical question. What if they're entirely different species, not from different regions of Earth, but from different dimensions of reality? In multiverse theory, each universe can evolve under slightly different physical laws, gravity stronger or weaker, atmospheres denser, time flowing at different rates, life evolving along paths familiar, yet fundamentally alien. If that's the case, then these Bigfoot-like beings may be travelers or perhaps migrants, moving between dimensions the way animals migrate between continents. And Earth might not be their destination, just one stop among many. That would explain why sightings are brief, why encounters feel accidental, almost intrusive, why the creatures seem as startled by us as we are by them. It also opens a far more unsettling possibility. If these beings can move through the multiverse, then we are not simply being visited from another world. We are standing inside a crossing point, a shared ecosystem where multiple realities intersect. And if that's true, Bigfoot may not be studying us, may not be hiding from us. It may simply be passing through, on its way somewhere else entirely.
In northwestern New Jersey lies the often forgotten county of Sussex. A most unlikely place to find a Bigfoot specimen. But the small rural township of Wantage has its very own. A creature known as the Wantage creature simply, but to the locals it is better known as Old Red Eye, as this specimen doesn't simply have red eye shine that reflects back when hit with a light, but is said to actually admit the light from its eyes in an eerie red that lights the area. This is what researchers are beginning to call a high-strangeness variety. Bigfoot that possess attributes and features not normal to what we think of when we think of the classic variety.
In the rolling hills and deep woods of northwestern New Jersey, there's a place most people drive past without a second thought. Wantage Township. Quiet, rural, unassuming. But in the late 1970s, something stepped out of those woods and into local history. Residents began reporting a massive, upright creature moving through the forests and farmland near the Kittatinny Valley. 7 to 8 feet tall, broad-shouldered, covered in dark, matted hair. But what set this entity apart, what gave it its name, were the eyes. Witnesses described them as glowing red, shining unnaturally in the darkness, not reflecting light like an animal's eyes, but emitting it. The most infamous encounter occurred in 1977 when a local family claimed the creature repeatedly returned to their property. They reported livestock killed, cages torn apart, and a powerful presence lurking just beyond the reach of their floodlights. At one point, the creature allegedly lifted and threw a large dog with ease, a display of strength far beyond any known wildlife in the region. Neighbors heard screams, deep, piercing vocalizations that didn't resemble bears, coyotes, or any animal native to New Jersey. And when people went looking for tracks, they found something even stranger: footprints that appeared suddenly and then stopped. No clear trail, no sign of retreat. For years, skeptics argued misidentification, a bear, a hoax, exaggerated fear, but the reports persisted. Decades later, sightings resurfaced in the same wooded corridors, the same roads, the same tree lines, always brief, always at night, always ending with those eyes watching before the figure vanished back into the forest. Some researchers now believe the wantage creature isn't simply a regional Bigfoot, but a high-strangeness variant linked to the same phenomena seen across the Appalachian corridor: red glowing eyes, sudden appearances, an atmosphere witnesses describe as heavy, charged, as if reality itself is slightly out of alignment. In this view, the wantage creature may not be living in the woods at all. It may be passing through them, using remote places as access points between worlds. And if that's true, then the forests of Wantage Township aren't just hiding something unknown. They're standing on the edge of something we barely understand.
Another take on the high-strangeness hypothesis is that these are not creatures forming like this to adapt to our world, or what they are allowed to manifest in our world. This is simply how they were produced in their dimension, how evolution, physics, and other forces, natural or unnatural, have shaped them, and they have simply slipped into our dimension. But as these sightings grow, there are multiple incidences across the wilderness, across the United States, of these high strangeness varieties, not to mention the greater world at large.
When people hear the word Bigfoot, they picture a single creature, a relic species hiding in the wilderness. That idea is comforting. It implies order, but the evidence doesn't support it. What we're dealing with isn't one being, it's a family of manifestations, and that's where the high strangeness variant theory comes in. This theory proposes that Bigfoot sightings fall into two broad categories. The first behaves like an undiscovered primate, rare, elusive, but physical. The second category doesn't follow biological rules at all. Those are the high strangeness variants. They appear suddenly, disappear without tracks, exhibit impossible traits: wings, horns, eyes that don't glow but emit the light, distorted anatomy, and most importantly, they're often accompanied by other phenomena, the same phenomena as classic Bigfoot sightings. Lights in the sky, electromagnetic interference, missing time, a sensation witnesses describe as being watched before seeing anything. Take Sheepsquatch. Reported primarily in West Virginia and surrounding regions, it's described as massive, bipedal, horned, sometimes wool-covered, sometimes smooth. Not an animal that fits into any known evolutionary path. In high-strangeness cases, Sheepsquatch appears near UFO sightings, orbs, and geomagnetic anomalies. The creature doesn't act territorial. It appears, observes, and vanishes, as if the environment itself briefly fails. Now consider Batsquatch, winged, red-eyed, blue fur, seen near Mount St. Helens and other geologically volatile areas. Witnesses often report distorted sound, pressure in the air, and a sense of unreality, as if the moment itself is unstable. Biology doesn't produce 8-foot-tall primate wings, but interdimensional theory allows for partial translation, a form not fully compatible with our physical laws. And then there's the wantage creature. Northern New Jersey, rural forests, sightings describing a classic Bigfoot shape, but with disproportionate limbs, unnatural movement, and an uncanny stillness, massive red eyes shining light. The wantage creature doesn't flee like an animal, it watches. Witnesses report time distortion, silence, and afterward, a lingering sense that something else was present. That's the key. High-strangeness variants aren't simply creatures, they're events. The theory suggests these forms are shaped by where and how they cross over. Different regions, different energy conditions, different expressions of the same underlying phenomenon. In one place it resolves as something horned, in another winged, in another something almost human but wrong. These are not separate species evolving independently, they're dimensional variants, forms intersecting with our reality at different angles, which means Bigfoot isn't confined to forests, or continents, or even this dimension. And if that's true, then Sheepsquatch, Batsquatch, and the wantage creature aren't outliers. They're signposts, markers that tell us the boundary between worlds is thinner than we think, and that sometimes what crosses over doesn't arrive whole.
In our hypothetical multiverse, we have strangeness and anomalies. But are they really? Or are they just common and we are just simply unaware of this fact as we are stuck in our own little corner of the multiverse, yet to reach out to the greater reaches of multiple dimensional travel?
For generations, we've tried to separate the unexplained into neat categories. Bigfoot belongs to the forest. UFOs belong to the sky. Orbs are dismissed as lights. Skinwalker Ranch is an anomaly. Mount Shasta, a legend. But what if that division is the mistake? Across the world, the same patterns repeat. Lights that appear and vanish without warning, creatures that step out of the wilderness and out of reality itself, places where instruments fail, time distorts, and perception bends, locations where something unseen presses close, watching. At Skinwalker Ranch, the phenomena converge, creatures, craft, portals, and fear, all in one place. At Mount Shasta, ancient myths and modern sightings tell the same story from different centuries. In the forests of North America and beyond, Bigfoot appears not as an animal, but as a presence. And above it all, UFOs move not like machines, but like something navigating rules we don't yet understand. The phenomenon theory suggests these are not separate mysteries, but expressions of a single underlying reality. A multi-dimensional system where worlds overlap, intersect, and sometimes bleed through. In this framework, Bigfoot is not merely a creature. UFOs are not simply craft. Orbs are not just lights. They are symptoms, visible side effects of something vast moving just beyond our perception. Certain locations, deep forests, ancient mountains, remote deserts may act as thin places, doorways, natural intersections where reality loosens its grip and other dimensions brush against our own. We don't encounter these phenomena because they seek us out. We encounter them because we happen to be standing where worlds meet. And perhaps the most unsettling truth of all is that none of this is new. The stories have always been here, carried in indigenous knowledge, folklore, whispered encounters, and modern data. Only the language has changed. The universe may not be empty. It may not even be distant. It may be layered. And occasionally, those layers touch.
Or is this, as some call it, all part of the woo-woo? Or supernatural mumbo-jumbo with no basis in reality? Or just some looking to explain something that just simply is not there? At least for now, this is your decision to make. I have been your host, David Blanchard, and this has been your glimpse into the Bigfoot dimension.